Everyone, welcome in. BetSports Golf here for the 2024 Players Championship TPC Sawgrass. I think we have to divorce the fifth major best field in golf monikers.
It's the fifth signature event of the year.
Yeah.
I will say, and I'm so ice cold and one and done. Maybe I don't even give you advice later. It is a $25 million purse. That is the difference still. It's still a bigger purse than the other signature events. It's a bigger purse than any of the majors. You can absolutely get paid here. So there is that. There is the prestige. Obviously the iconic hole, the iconic shots, the iconic calls over the years. But it's still with 8 signature events, it's funny how it is driving more of the prestige is back to where it should be. The majors, everyone's always excited for a major, but now it's oh God, we finally get Rahm and I almost said Bazoodenhood. I don't know why. DeChambeau, I don't know why I can't keep those two straight. That's not something you should mix up.
Well, we don't get Dean Burmeister.
No, you don't get Burmeister, but you get Neiman, you get DeChambeau, you get Brooksy, you get Cam, you get Rahm, DJ. Obviously, a lot of the big names will be at Augusta. So it does drive a lot of the prestige back to where it should be. I'd love to see, it sucks because this is a PGA event. That's what the majors are not governed by the PGA. Right. They can do whatever the hell they want. It would be interesting to someday be all right, it's the players. We're going to let, Rahm has to come here. We have to sort I don't give a shit about anything else. We just have to sort that part out. Get Rahm here. Get Brooks here. Get at least the big names. Neiman should be playing. Everybody who's in the top 100 who's eligible in the OWGR is here. And that is saying there are a bunch of people in the top 100. I know, but there's a lot of people in that who are not eligible. So that part sucks. It's still a great tournament. It's still awesome. Obviously, this is kind of the hot stretch here as we are about. The Masters starts on April 11th. So we're short of a month out at this point. We are so close to just golf ASMR. Honestly, one of my fondest memories was finding that stream that one year where they had no announcers. And just watching the Masters for
birds
3 hours
chirping.
Yeah, no announcers. You couldn't really even hear the golfers. You'd hear the shots a little. It was very, very zen. So pumped for that. But obviously, I'll watch a ton of this weekend. It's a great course, and it looks like the weather's going to be pretty decent.
Yeah, heating up down in Florida here over the next couple of days. I think it's been pretty mild heading into the weekend, and they've had a decent amount of rain in the last month or so. But yeah, we're going to get mid 80s for the most part here down in Florida. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, I tongue in cheek with the fifth major, and these are kind of the things that they've used to brand the events. And obviously the shift in professional golf has, I think, changed that a little bit, but there's a reason that it was where it was previously. And part of it is the course does kind of bring in a little bit of everyone. It is the most iconic Pete Dye track. We have numerous Pete Dye tracks on tour. So probably one of the more iconic, famous, popular, successful golf architects. And this one is built in a swamp for this. And I think it's been a very successful, event. And I think more than what the PGA had hoped it would be. So yeah, I mean, it's going to create the drama on the back 9, I think is great. Even 16, 17, 18 it makes for, fantastic finishing stretch there with, a legit risk reward on 16. Everyone knows how iconic 17 is. And again, it's the water surrounding it, but obviously it's a very difficult green complex to maneuver. And then 18, obviously, with just the threat of water down the side and, how aggressive you want to be on that tee shot, depending on what the score looks like. Didn't matter last year. We had a runaway winner, essentially. Scottie winning by 5 strokes, which is something that we're going to have to tackle here. Is kind of becomes a, what the hell do we do with Scottie and all that's going on here? But yeah, I mean, field pretty loaded in terms of what we can expect basically without the live guys, obviously, as we touched on there, the de facto live guys that should be here that can't be. Tiger kind of felt like we were going to get Tiger here previously with his the way he had talked about his
Yeah.
schedule. He's not here. But really everyone else that can, full field 144, top 65 in ties, make it to the weekend, and a crap ton of money at the top.
Yeah. Any API thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, dude, it was different. Like I don't know. I mean, we could just do Scottie, right? If you want to do Scottie.
I mean, let's just do Scottie because it kind of segues into the main narratives around Sawgrass and the narratives around players is that, hey, it's not predictive how you did last year. I mean, so many people have pointed out Scottie won, but he's also had 2 really terrible finishes here. Everybody who's won seems to have 2 or 3 terrible finishes if they're a big name they've played a bunch. It's not predictive. People don't repeat. People don't even play that well. There's only 2 repeat, not even repeat back to back, repeat. You won it years later over the last number of decades. It's Tiger and I can't think of the other guy, one other fella who have even won this twice. So it's very hard to do this again, which is, so the narrative drives towards oh, you should never play the defending champ because they don't play here. But the secondary narrative, the one that matters is if you look, who's winning this tournament? Who wins this tournament every year? I listened when I had some time yesterday. I listened to Andy Lack's weekend podcast, and I mean he pointed out he was dancing around it, but it's and he mentioned the strokes gained approach. He mentioned just the irons play, the ball striking. He's whoever is the best ball striker, whoever's playing the best leading into this, does well here. So it's funny because it's Scottie. So you've got very conflicting forces facing here. So yeah, if you watch any of the weekend, it was there's memes. Oh, the Happy Gilmore. Oh, Scottie learned how to putt. Oh, look what happens if he's not losing 5 strokes in the green. Obviously, he could not win for a full year from last year's, whatever his final win was last year.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, there was, I think, something in the swing season that was he was talking about he had won that and it didn't count for everyone's narrative. But yeah, it definitely is.
We would still acknowledge golf is, it's very hard to win a tournament no matter how good you are. He's still probably the best player in the world. So I'm kind of torn on just I don't know how you don't play him here. If you're, obviously DFS is a different beast with ownership.
Sure.
And betting the number's going to suck and trying to find a way for him to maybe bump that price up. Parlay him with your favorite, ACC future, whatever you want to do.
I was going to hit you up yesterday because I was looking to get ways to get Scottie to 10 or something. And I'm like, all right, Andy, who's a tournament lock or something that I need to be doing something with, or, the Scottie double with here in Augusta or something like that. What do we to do to get this to be a palatable price? I don't know. I talked to Feinberg about this a little bit yesterday too, because I was curious what his thoughts were and how do we approach this week. And we'll sometimes talk, before we meet here on Tuesdays, just to get your his thoughts on the card, which we used to have him here in the past, and I enjoyed that process. But I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. I think we are we fight against that at times. It felt different last week at Bay Hill. Everyone struggled. Everyone went on the weekend, basically, that was in contention and fell off. Mm-hmm. And then on Sunday, it was even worse and even more dramatic. And he went out and fired a 66. And there were 2 things that you touched on there too. Some folks instantly rule out 2 things. We want form until you win. Now we don't want your form. So people sometimes are quick to rule out the previous week's winner or the defending champ for this event. Scottie is both of those. So that makes it a little bit harder.
Double negative. I'm playing him. I'm just gonna have a bet on there where at least if he wins, at least breaks even for my other bets. I'm no longer gonna donate against this guy when he's playing this well. And these are easier greens to putt on. This is the overseed is gonna make these, it's like the indoor putting greens, man. This is carpet. If he's throwing darts and his putter is actually working a little bit, he's going to have an easier time here. He's playing so well. He should probably be 4-1, whatever. Yeah. 5.
And it's not like 6. He's always been a terrible putter. This is a golf prodigy in a lot of ways. All the way through coming up, he was like the guy, one of the guys. He won at every level. He's been good. He's been in a little bit of a rut. Putting, if you play the game, putting more than anything is like a confidence factor. When you're standing over that ball, do you believe that you have a shot to make it in? Are you worried about even from 15 feet? If it's a lag putt, because you're worried about the comeback, or like, there's so many things here that are like, all right, yeah, all of a sudden we want to react to like one good putting week, but like maybe I don't want to overreact to like a bad, calendar year or so of putting too. So I don't know. You mentioned too, like not only do we not get repeat winners here, Ron mentioned in his preview, it's been 20 years since the defending champ at TPC Sawgrass finished inside the top 10 the following year. So we're asking him to do something that just is not really done. But like we also had something last week that had never been done either. I couldn't believe this. This is the first time last week in the ShotLink era that a golfer's ever finished top 12 in every strokes gained metric for the week. Ever. This is what like we're going back to like 06. We have some like data back to like it's ever, which is really wild. You got to 4 under last week.
I know you wonder. I'm sure people have gone and done this. I wonder what some of the Tiger like 01, like what some of those rounds.
Right. Oh yeah.
I guarantee it. But I mean, this is still
2000
like almost,
Tiger. Yeah.
Yeah. This is like a 20-year sample of stuff where it's like it was quite the. And I had Sal, and you just felt helpless. Like,
same.
Hey,
right.
William Zalatoris went out and played pretty good golf this weekend, but he went up. It's like, I've seen this. This happened the other day in the conference basketball tournament. Weber State, great team, one of the best teams in the Big Sky. They went up against the lower seed. The other seed didn't miss. Like they were a decent team, but they were dogs. You just feel helpless when the other team just can't miss. Like people are making the same kind of jokes. Like they don't shoot this well in like shoot around in open gym. This is the kind of stuff that just kills you because you probably weren't on the wrong side altogether, but sometimes you come up against something like this. And obviously with Scottie, it's always lurking there. And that's why I'm not gonna fight it at tracks like this, because it isn't, it is a large field, but this isn't a field a course where you can get lucky and I putted well this week, and I lucked out in a few spots. Like you not only have to be so accurate off the tee and with your second shot, like you do need to not just be finding proximity. You need to find the right part of the green after you find the right part of the fairway. Like it really does separate wheat from chaff. Like it's probably another week where if Scottie doesn't win, it feels like it is going to be someone near the top of the board either way because of how this course plays. And let's talk a little Sawgrass. I don't know what you have in your notes. Pete Dye.
Pete Dye is
sick fuck.
Yeah, I think this is but more so than any of them. And I think there are some like corollary to other Pete Dye tracks. There's some other correlated courses out there that maybe aren't Dye designs, I guess you could say, but definitely positional golf. We are also in Florida, so we naturally have a ton of water. We have a ton of bunkers. We have some like, wastelands, some like borderline, mangrove type jungle stuff where like it's in play. It's very much a positional golf course. You have to put yourself in position off the tee, not just in the fairway, but on the right side of the fairway. Make sure that you give yourself a chance to hold the greens. And they are going to be fast. Like you mentioned, they are pure, but they are quick. So that's why we have seen we haven't seen a lot of like debut winners here, or guys that have come and had a ton of success the first time out too, because it's a unique track to kind of navigate the first time through. But like, it's kind of hard to model. And that kind of is why it's like the Scottie thing. We go back to that too. It's like, all right, this is a place where, of course, history hasn't mattered. It's a place where you need everything. It's not predictable, but like, just give me the guy that's the best at the most predictable stuff. That makes it feel like the best way to approach it, because that's just kind of it. It's really, really hard when we want to like hone in on stats or different filters in the rabbit hole to kind of like hone in on what to do this week. It's really hard because you kind of need the whole thing, and you can talk yourself into like 15 different filters, and then what are you weighing that matters the most. But I do think we've seen recent form leading up to the event from a ball striking standpoint be the most predictive of anything. And again, it's another like bright glowing signal that is like Scottie Scheffler, Scottie Scheffler, Scottie Scheffler. Like if you want to go outside of Scottie this week, I feel like you need to go to just like without
Scottie
markets. Yeah, they're like go to the without markets. And they're mostly like right now they're like without Rory and Scottie, which is fine. But like that's probably what I would do if I'm looking to bet without Scottie this week. So yeah, I mean, look, you need all of it here. These are Poetry Vialis screens. They're fast. They're going to play firm. You're going to have a lot of less than driver because of the forced layups. So the average driving distance is significantly lower. There's some people that'll tell you and it has increased a little bit with the move from May to March, which has changed things a little bit here. And we have had some rain this season, so we do have a little bit of that here where like the fairways might be a little bit more receptive.
And I wonder how thick that rough is now that it's been, because it's weird to like, people often think about rough as just height, but like it's a plant, heavy, good watering, good conditions, make it just thicker and lusher too. And this is nasty. Like you have to have some precision off the tee so that you can have precision with your second shot and find the right, a lot of them will describe it as quadrants of the screen, finding that right. And then on top of that, the greens are quick. They're firm. And obviously we did get some rain, so maybe they'll be a little softer to start, which will be fun if it gets tougher as the tournament continues. And then obviously there's a bunch of danger, water danger. There's one hole that people might think of, off the top of their head for that. I mean, but there's a bunch of that. And there's a bunch of spots where you're kind of forced to hit towards the danger because that's what you need to do, especially if you want to compete. So it's fun because it's not all like risk reward. It's all just like risk.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, water in play, like legit in play on 17 of the 18 holes. So, and that is the die thing too, right? And you read some of the player quotes, and Ron's got a bunch in his preview up on the site right now. Like the P die stuff from a visual off the tee standpoint is here's the really clear danger. It's inviting you to hit to the opposite side of it, but really positionally where you want to be for your second shot is coming from the angle of where the danger is. So like, yeah, you want to avoid it off the tee, but if you don't take it on a little bit, you're not really set up to score at all. And that gets really, really tricky. So that is some of the genius of the layout here, whereas, why it is the event that it is historically, even without the, fifth major moniker anymore. There are some interesting things too. Yeah. Ron notes too. And the shift back in 2019 from May to March, like it's playing harder. There's some stats that really don't matter. So like really taking in a lot of pre 2019 data is probably a little bit of a fool's errand. You probably should be looking at a little bit more of anything that could be predictable, sticky statistically in the last 5 years or so, I think is probably your best approach. And we didn't even have one of the events. We had one round, obviously back in 2020. This is the COVID event that got stopped. So it's a pretty small sample.
But also a good point, not going too far back, because when they did play this in May-ish, it was it's a different agronomy. And the course played obviously differently. So don't look too far back. And we said maybe don't even look last year. Don't look back at all because success has not been predictive. Maybe you should be looking for guys who played terrible here who are about to pop their good round. And then, yes, obviously the Pete Dye stuff with just all the little details that he puts in. And I think I'd probably do this every year because it's this course. But like we just had International Women's Day. Shout out Alice Dye, his wife, was like, there's reports, I mean, from everyone, she was the one who decided to put the island green in. That was her suggestion because he was taking out a bunch of dirt to make, like, how all these courses, they have the mounds. So once we started having more spectators, you had to build areas for spectators to view the golf from. So they were moving all the dirt, and she wanted to put the island green in because she was sicker. She was way sicker than Pete. She wanted terrible golf, not terrible, like terribly hard holes. So shout out Alice. I think they're both past. They got to be, if not, they both would be like well into their 90s.
Yeah.
The field, like we mentioned, everybody except the live guys, they're all here. I don't know what else you can say about the field. It's everyone. It's everyone who's everyone that isn't playing on live. Like this is the creme de la creme. This is a major level field almost. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to look too far down the board, honestly. Like, you have to find a guy who you really believe is ascending quickly. And a lot of those guys are priced, not too far down the board anyway. Like Aubert, 35 to 1. Yeah, Aubert. I still want to say the A. Aubert's 35 to 1. And then, kind of the rest, like Minwoo Lee, you want to go 65 to 1 here, where
Minwoo was in that final group with Scottie last year, and it was over quick. By the third hole, there was really, it was donezo, folded like a cheap shirt. And that's what this golf course can do. And he has separated himself on the odds board, basically for the most part, 550, 5 in some spots. Last week, we basically had a Rory and Scottie tier. We basically now have 2 separate tiers with Scottie sub 6. Rory's by himself around 12 to 14. And then you have a massive tier, basically, 20 to say 35, maybe 40, depending on the books. There's some varying prices. And, and a lot of those guys are a little bit longer than they typically are, which makes it appealing because you have to, it's the hold on golf outright markets are a unique thing anyway. It's not like they're getting pushed because of Scottie, but a little bit. There's a little bit of like some of these guys are a little longer odds wise because Scottie has continued to separate himself. So that's why I said it's maybe a without Scottie week makes a ton of sense if you're looking to just fade it and you don't actually want to fade it. That you take a little bit of a shorter number, say 20s on a guy that is low 30s or something like that. If you want to kind of shop in the next group, which makes a ton of sense. Unless you want to lay on Scottie at 550, which I don't think is a bad thing.
I'm gonna do it.
I know, right? So it's like depends on how you allocate funds or what you want to like. It's a unique week, and you're just gonna hate yourself pretty quick, right? If the mallet putter change is an actual thing, we're probably gonna know pretty quick.
Yeah.
Again, he's been terrible for stretches putting and always in contention. Always in contention. We don't
That's
need
the thing. He doesn't need 4 great rounds of putting. Like 2 bad ones, 1 average one, and 1 good one will probably win the tournament if the rest of his game is as advertised.
He made his last 23 putts inside 15 feet last week. That's insane. He's not going to do that again. But again, what we've always said, field average putting, and it's kind of lights out because we're looking at a Tiger Woods-esque ball striker. I looked at it this morning. I tweeted it out. If you look at the last calendar year from a strokes gained tee to green standpoint, again, most sticky stat. Again, we can't get off of Scottie, and it's hard to. He has gained strokes, 76 round sample. He has gained strokes tee to green 93.55% of his rounds. The next closest guy, no one else is in the 80s. Next closest guy is Corey Connors at 78 and change. The delta between Scottie and Connors is the same as Connors and number 40 Grayson Sig. So we are talking about some historic ball striking stuff. And now, I don't know. It's kind of terrifying. So I don't know how to not talk about him, or I don't know how to run a model where he's not number 1. You just have to make a yes/no decision on what to do with it this week. And we can get into that. We can start building some models here on the rabbit hole.
Talk a few key stats before we pull up the rabbit hole to model them out. I don't know what's high on your list. Obviously, we have Ron's from the preview, but it is probably just it's a second shot course. He said in the most used golf betting cliche, but it is. You do have to have it's probably approach first, and then accuracy off the tee. And then everything else. I'm going to say everything else. I know people have brought up par 5 scoring. You do need to catch these par 5s properly. You do need a little around the green because, like you said, these even the best players and the best iron players are not going to catch all these greens. Like they're hard. There's going to be a lot of 200 plus approach, so it's going to be hard to land on these small greens and hold them. You are going to have to be decent around the green with a little bit of scrambling. And then I don't know if I look at putting at all, really. It's not like Bermuda putting. We're looking at, these overseeded greens. It's essentially like maybe just overall putting if you want to do anything. And then like Ryan has on the screen there, we're still running the Vivid picks. So 2 things. The prices are going up soon. We kept prices low because we were still a work in progress. We're obviously still a work in progress, but I'm very happy where the tools are at now, especially the rabbit hole. Going to have to get closer to industry average instead of being so incredibly cheap all the time. So it's not a bad time to sign up. That said, we're still letting you do it for $5 if you're in a vivid pick state. It's a pick 'em game. Ryan puts out an article every week with some entries for this. If you want to play, literally deposit $5, play $5. We'll send you a promo code. You can get a $199 BetSports Golf yearly subscription for 5 bones. That's it. I mean, you can deposit more if you like playing the pick'em games. If you want to get involved, if you think you're able to find some edges in these things, they'll deposit match you up to $250. You can get a bunch of free money from them as well when you sign up. You still get the promo code. You deposit 5, you deposit 5,000. We'll still send you the same promo code. You get essentially a free year. It's $5. That's a double mocha chino latte. I don't know. I have a Keurig. I make my own coffee. So the link to this is in the show notes. The link to this is in the YouTube. It's right on the front page of BetSports Golf. If you have any questions about this, DM us. If you're not in one of these states, we have had people say, can I go across the border this weekend to visit my in-laws, sign up in one of these states and sure, you can. That's a nice little loophole if you're a clever little rabbit. And if you aren't near any of these and you're never going to be, still would love to hear from you in the DMs. We can probably get you a promo code to get you a little better deal. So hit us up on the Twitter machine if you have that sort of issue. You're not in a vivid pick states. We're gonna have to clip that part. It's vivid list. all the pick'em games are pretty fun. But yeah, key stats. I think we pretty much nailed it down. Let's put them in the rabbit hole. Come up with a model.
Let's do it.
Decide who's good. And I don't know. Should we go in? This is terrible scientific process. Should we go in trying to make it so Scottie's not first?
No, he's just gonna be, like I said, we just got to deal with it. He's just gonna be first, and I know, he should be first.
It's almost like a fun exercise. What can we do? Besides, it's not fair. Just like, we did an all putting model.
Andy, I don't know that we can. Like, I think that's what we would have to do. We would have to do something that's just like putting and not even short game, because it's around the green is bonkers as well. So yeah, if you are seeing the rabbit hole here with us for the first time, it is a very, very, very easy to use. Customizable stat database that allows you to look at different statistical views, filter them by all sorts of conditions to, I think, tell you a pretty good story on how to fill out a betting card or to lead to a DFS player pool build. Again, not the answers to the test, but I think a great indicator in where you would want to start your handicap research this week and continue to go from there. We have a lot of different ways to do it. We default here to the strokes gain view. You click on this button, you can see all the different ones here. We're going to get into some of these conditions. This is a overwhelming tab. You can kind of see here, there are a ton of ways for you to chop up this data. We do have a new addition to the conditions, which I'm excited about this week, and I think will play a factor. We'll wait and see now. We are still obviously about 48 hours out from tee time here. But wind is a issue, obviously, in Florida, and probably more prominent at this time of year versus where we are historically in May in the previous iterations of this event too. So you do have some of these early spring winds. We have wind data here that has been classified for you and something you can now add to your rabbit hole research, which we are pretty excited about too. So you can also download any of these little buckets into a CSV. If you want to chop up a bunch of different models, you can do that. You can click into this tab as well to view our expert rankings. You want to see what Andy Lack from Inside Golf Podcast is doing. Matt Vicenzi as well, who does golf. His Tap In podcast is out there too. You want to see his model, what Andy and I are doing. Ron, PGA Splits 101. Click on this tab, and you can look at our models as well. See here, you have some old models, but you see I built one here that's up there. You can see some other stuff that's in there too, which will get cleaned up for you. But yeah, you can go and see what we're doing. What stats did we add that maybe you weren't considering that you want to go back in and add to your model?
And if you're looking, this is something you're, let's say you subscribe or you have just subscribed. If you're looking for any guidance, just follow Ron on Twitter. PGA Splits 101. He's going to post 100 things a week, and just little, not everything is a model you need to build and, look at, who's number one? That's who I'm betting. A lot of it is just like trying to find little nuggets. Who's struggled in certain subsets? Like he just tweeted something out a little bit ago where he put 4 screenshots and him, digging down into some of these splits. He did, strokes gained off the tee, but he split it by distance from the edge of the fairway on courses where it's difficult off the tee with a high missed fairway penalty. So he got really granular on one, just picking out a few different filters like that. He did, like ball striking on difficult, conditions for ball striking with high water danger. So the more filters you add, obviously the smaller the sample gets. So that's why he's not mixing these all into one for the most part. He's doing it separately, looking at, you can just look at putting. If you want to just look at the putting on only Poa Trivialis greens like this with, the overseed, it's something you can look at. You don't have to put it in your mixed condition model. A lot of it is just pulling those splits up and looking at who's doing well or who's struggling in certain conditions, on certain courses and certain types of play. So I don't know. What do you want to start with to build our model for the day?
Yeah, to touch on a couple of things there real quick. Just you can mess around with the time frame here, going back to the last 5 years, and then there's also the slide bar here that allows you to manipulate the rounds played too. So those things kind of work in conjunction to make sure that you're getting yourself a sample size that makes a ton of sense. You have the number of rounds that are captured for each golfer in the current sample size that you have. You have in parentheses the shot link data rounds, because obviously, especially these guys that play in the swing season, or you get some of these alt field events, some of these, or even we have places like Farmers that you don't have, the north and the south course don't have shot link data, so that just kind of messes around with its stuff too. There's also one view which is awesome, to Andy's point, is the floor ceiling view. You're not able to currently add anything there to the to your rabbit hole model, but this is actually gives you actual data on spiked weeks. I think the best use case is putting, because we often hear about that, like elite ball strikers, but how often do they have spiked putting weeks? Ironic that Luke List pops to the top here. You can look at this through any condition as well, but like how often does someone actually gain strokes putting? How often does someone gain 2, 3, 4 strokes putting versus actually just, hypothetically saying the words spike putting week? You could actually back it up here with data, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, dude, just do the 2+. Pull that up or sort by.
Yeah. We'll go back further. Let's look the last 50 rounds or so. Mess around guys that are gaining at least 2 strokes, or how often they gain 2 strokes putting in the field. So good putters. Chan Kim, Taylor Montgomery, Minwoo Lee, Matt Wallace, Wyndham Clark are your top 5, and the only guys that are gaining at least 2 strokes a quarter of the time. You see how infrequently that happens.
Look at Wyndham's numbers.
I mean, Wyndham's awesome putter.
It's just crazy though to see the sea of green across. I mean, even some of the guys who've had a bunch of, more than above average, 2+ strokes for a round, 3+. Dylan Wu, Matt Wallace, obviously. There we go. Yeah. Billy Horschel.
Horschel likes these Poa Trivialis greens.
Wyndham Clark.
Yeah, Wyndham's up there too. But also, I also love to see the inverse of these, right? So like JJ Spawn. I mean, the Finau stuff is something we can get to. The Finau has been worse than, actually worse than Corey Connors. I mean, when you think of like elite ball strikers, and Finau has been pristine ball striking for the last calendar year, and the putter is just a absolute unmitigated disaster currently. So these are interesting to see of other guys. Like, hey, see who's won here. Another flusher tee to green, but gets really caught up and has a hard time. I mean, basically, look, you're telling you here he's losing strokes putting 64.5% of the time, which is a really tough pill to swallow. So yeah, again, a unique tool. But yeah, let's go back. Let's go back to the top. Anchor stats. I think we can get into a spot, and I think it matters here a lot, Andy. We're talking about like recent form. I think we can maybe look at like small sample, but who's playing well right now in 2024.
Yeah, I kind of want to just look at, this will sort from January on. So starting in Hawaii, you can have some smaller samples for a few guys, but
And you can go here to this minimum round feature. You can add, you want to like just have a threshold of, getting yourself, say, at least 12 rounds from someone. So you kind of filter out some of the noise.
Yeah,
you can do
somebody
something like that.
showed up to Florida and played well for 1 week.
Yeah. So just look in since the calendar switched, strokes gained total in this field. Hey, look, Scottie Scheffler. Pavon has been really wild. You look at his makeup on the DP World Tour. This has not been coming. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. Doug Gim, Xander Schauffele, Shane Lowry, your top 5. You can see some other guys that have been very competitive and in the mix here. Some interesting names. You can do total. You can do tee to green. Again, I think looking at the inverse it tells a story as well, like matchup standpoint or some other stuff you want to kind of look at the guys to target here. Again, here's the Finau thing, right? Finau second tee to green in the calendar year, 130th in a 144-man field in strokes gained putting. And the around the green has not been much better. But again, look at this, flushing it tee to green, which is interesting too. So, yeah, what are you going to do? Total, tee to green. The model that I did both. I did both strokes gained total and strokes gained tee to green in 2024. It's kind of my anchor stats.
Let's rip with tee to green.
All you need to do is click the little plus button there under the stats. You can actually hover over the stat and it tells you what the actual stat is. If it's new to you and you're new to doing this, you can add a description if you'd like. You don't have to, but again, for your own sake, I think it's useful depending on if you get into a lot of like strokes gained total with different filters. I think once you get in there and understanding how you're weighing things, I think it matters. So anything else you want to do from an anchoring standpoint?
No, let's just stick with the one and kind of move on from there. We're going to have to get granular because like I said, it's basically, we're looking for whose ball struck very well over the last kind of month or so.
We'll stay in tee to green, or we'll stay in strokes gained. We'll get into some of these.
We could do
conditions.
something. Yeah, we could do something a little more specific with like greens and regulation, or long iron shots, something like that. Looking at it at I don't. So the winner here is going to be like 12, 13, 14 under, right? It's not the most difficult scoring conditions. I don't know what if you were to sort this out by like. I'm looking for something that's corollary for greens and regulation. Do you go water danger? Do you go tough off the tee? Do you go tie? Just courses with tall rough.
All of it. What would you do? I mean, that's the thing that I was saying at the top. It's so hard because you can really make so many. I think there's a lot of like smart applications for all of these filters this week. It just becomes a matter of.
Well, that's the thing. You could just pick out a bunch of comp courses as well.
Yeah, I would say that scoring conditions are difficult because I mean, look, we 6 under was top 20, so like you needed to. Matsuyama was solo 5th at 9 under. Scottie won by 5 and got to 17, but he was clear. There's only 3 other guys that are in double digits, so it's not like pretty unusual comparatively. It was just like last week. I would consider that difficult scoring conditions. Wyndham was at 10. He was the only other guy besides Scottie in double digits. So, that was a fairly difficult scoring condition week where, you were 4 under was, T8. So I think that's where we're at here a little bit. So again, something you could do is literally, you could do difficult and very difficult and kind of just make sure you're ruling out some of the easier scoring conditions. I think that's viable. If you wanted to do something field strength wise, you could do that as well. Not something that I love. I think some of these, the water danger, this is obviously a high water danger. I'm not a big bunker guy because I think it's a little statistically noisy, but this is obviously a place with high bunkers. Again, a ton of ways you can, again, in event season and capture Florida data, a ton of different ways to do it this week. But maybe we do something with just like scoring conditions being difficult, very difficult. Capture some of that. Again, you can put in a bunch of these, like Andy mentioned. Be careful. You're going to have to mess with the sample size because you're going to get pretty statistically noisy when you do so. It tells you the filters here that we picked. Looking at the last 12 months, last 50 rounds. We're not going to get that sample, but we're getting, I think, a decent sample the last 12 months. Do you want to go back a little bit further?
Yeah, go 18 or 2.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get closer to 50 for some of these guys. We can. Strokes gained total. We're getting most of the field with a 12-round cap of guys that have played well in difficult and very difficult scoring conditions. And this is, the top of the board here, which makes sense. Scottie, Rory, Fitz, Homa, Hovland rounds out your top 5. You have Xander, Zalatoris, Lowry, Cam Young, and Tommy rounding out your top 10. There's some other guys just off the cuff here that make, again, a ton of sense. We'll add that here. Difficult note for self. All right, let's get into some of the we'll get off the strokes gains, and we'll get into some of the off the tee stuff, and then some approach stuff here as well for sake of time, because we did 45 minutes on Scottie Scheffler, so he deserved it. He earned it.
He did. He's loved. We're pro Scottie. We're pro good golf.
Off the tee's hard, man. Like, I think there are a ton of ways to do it this week. We've seen distance increase a little bit, like I said, but there are so many forced layups. So you can go just with the condition of less than driver. You can go less than driver and then start to bang out some of these other ones in terms of like total driving, which I think matters, which just captures a little bit of the accuracy that I think is important this week, but also captures some of the distance that's important. Good drive percentage in case you miss the fairways. What do you want to do? I think we should do something with less than driver, because we do have a ton of that this week.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
It's a weird less than driver, but still, you're going to see a ton of it regardless, just based on the setup of the course.
Yep. Again, you can go in here and look. Pretty
There's
cool.
And that's the thing. So there's so many good golfers here where they can pull out a 3 or a 2 iron and hit it farther than I hit my driver.
Yeah.
By a lot.
By a lot. Yeah. We're driving distance down, almost 7.5 yards over the tour average here last year. But that's actually increased. Accuracy is actually, believe it or not, right around field average, but that's because of the less than driver piece. That's not guys just luckily landing it into these like massive fairways. It's guys clubbing down. There is a decent, missed fairway penalty. You can, again, these fairway accuracy, missed fairway penalty, rough penalties, I think are worthwhile as well for you to look at. But let's just look at some of the off the tee, less than driver stuff from a strokes gained standpoint. Some pretty good drivers, which makes some sense. Do you have a preference off the strokes gained off the tee or total driving?
Probably, just accuracy or good drives gained.
Okay.
I'd rather have accuracy here than like total driving, because I don't know if I want to include distance as much.
Okay. I like distance from the edge of the fairway. Now, again, this is the average distance in feet.
Let's do a fun one.
I put this in line because I think this is, again, like this tells a better story. I always talked about, if you listened or watched before, this is a point that I like to drive home. But again, this is a unique stat that we have that you cannot model anywhere else. And I think it's the application for it this week, I think, makes a ton of sense. Driving accuracy is binary. It is a yes, no stat. Yes or no, were you on? Did it come to rest in the fairway? Distance from the edge of the fairway tells you, like, if you missed, how far did you miss? Yeah, it's just better. When are you missing and spraying it by a ton? That's important. Or you like, this tells me, because we need positional golf and to be able to control it. I think that matters a ton this week. So we'll add distance from the edge of the fairway. And again, I think this is also off less than driver. I think there are a lot of different ways that you can like wisely attack off the tee this week. I would probably put more than that in if I was making my model, which I did. So approach, what do you want to do?
We already looked at tee to green coming in, so you don't want to go too heavy here. Just like finding greens, going for green proximity, yes, or yards, yes. Probably, I don't know. I hate using proximity, but
yeah,
it's kind of a proximity week.
Ron had some of this, and he breaks it down comparatively. Overall proximity at Sawgrass up relative 18.7%, more difficult at Sawgrass than tour average. Same thing, fairway proximity as well. You find yourself a little bit further away from the hole than a tour average, obviously gaining strokes from an approach standpoint. a little bit more difficult too. So again, Ron's preview gives you stuff that you will not find anywhere else. Super helpful. And then there's a list of statistics that he advises that you take a look at this week in terms of modeling. So greens and reg, pretty standard, which is interesting too. I'm not a big proximity guy either. If I would do anything else here, I would probably want to do just strokes gained approach. But I think if you think that we have enough of it based off of our tee to green and strokes gained total from 2024, I'm okay with that too. But right now we don't have a lot, believe it or not. I'm like, hey, we're going to have a million things this week, and we don't. So far, we got 3.
Yeah, I feel like it doesn't always have to be 5 or 6 things.
It's true.
It's just that let's just sprinkle in a little around the green, some scrambling, something along those lines, and after this, and I think we're fine.
Do anything scoring wise? Bogey avoidance. You want to avoid the big numbers?
If I were doing scoring, I might just do par 5 birdie or betters.
Okay.
Whereas
I'm that approach here.
You know, I'm looking for people who are, you know, you gotta kind of find it on the par 5s. That's so true everywhere, but
sure.
I mean, these are scoreable. It isn't going to be, you know, a low scoring slog fest, or excuse me, a high scores. You do need to probably get to, you know, double digits under to compete.
All right. So you want to do average or birdie rate?
Just do birdie rate.
Okay. I'm going to put in bogey avoidance.
Okay.
Because I think that works too. So we get par 5 scoring birdie or better, and then overall bogey avoidance. Do you want to look at Poa Trivialis putting stats? Should we just look at it? We don't have to add it if you don't want to.
We can take a quick gander.
Let's take it for a spin. Again, these are not. If your stat model is telling you that these are Poa putting surfaces, again, in the show notes, DM us. You can get access to the rabbit hole, so you can actually tell yourself an accurate story of what's going on here. These are Poa Trivialis, not Poa. Very, 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 very different. And not Bermuda, because we're in the southeast. It's Poa Trivialis. So last 2 years, 50 rounds. We're not getting quite there, but for the most part, these guys are getting around 30 rounds, which I think is decent. Again, we still have the 12 round sample on there. Sammy Burns, Taylor Montgomery, Sam Ryder, Chad Ramey, Matt Kuchar, Troy Merritt. Good putters for the most part. Shocker. But again, it is interesting to see who is performing well here. If I added it, I'd add a very small percentage, so I don't even think that I really want it.
Yeah, I'm fine leaving it out.
Okay. Again, you can stay in like the strokes gained section, or anything ball striking wise, and filter by a ton of different conditions here, guys. For the sake of the show, we're not going to build all those out because like these are very fast greens. They're going to be increasingly firm as the weekend progresses. You have a ton of high water danger. Absolutely should probably be captured somewhere in some shape or form. If you want to look at just Pete Dye tracks, you can go in here and look at strokes gained Pete Dye over the last couple of years. There are some corollary courses. Ron and I actually hand built and added the courses, which you can do as well. Gaining off the tee is difficult. Fairway accuracy, all these things are very difficult. You want to add wind, that's in here as well. As you said, you can go into you want to look at just Sawgrass history, go into actually courses and just look at TPC Sawgrass, or you can hand select a bunch of individual courses as well and see who performs well on those courses. So lots of different ways to go about it. For the sake of the show, we'll build what we have built here, see what we get. We got 6 stats, so not bad. This is Andy and Noonan betting Sawgrass. All right. What do we want to do? And I go give a ton of weight to.
Yeah. Like 30%, man. Jack it up. Difficult conditions, 20.
Yeah. I think we should go heavy there.
That's half. Yeah, that's half the model. And then I like to start from the bottom. Like, which is the least, distance from the edge should be light. That's a pretty granular one.
But it's important, though. You know what I mean? Like, we do really need accuracy. When you look at some of these randos that have competed here, that are just like in the mix, like you have to be in the fairway. It is very hard to kicking around here if you were not.
I know, but it's including such a sample of that's the tough part. Is like this is a good stat, but it's hard to get a good sample because you're looking at all courses. So you're looking at courses where guys are bombing away because they don't care if they're in the rough.
Yeah,
that's what makes it tough with those.
Well, it does have the filter of less than driver, so we are filtering.
That's true. That so a little better, I guess.
Yeah.
Leaves us with 40. Man,
well,
it's still approach being top out of that. 2010-10.
2010-10. Sold. We actually have something coming very soon. Well, this will do the math for you, so you don't have to make sure.
I don't know why we didn't think of that to start.
Yeah.
Maybe I did write it down.
We're not resting on our laurels. Player pages coming soon, folks. Going to blow your mind. Tournament pages soon. A lot of cool stuff. Some more betting tools, matchup tools. We have pre-tournament projections. We're going to have in-tournament live projections. All this stuff is coming and continuing to be worked on. We want to make this your one-stop shop for all that you need here. You can save as many of these bad boys as you would like. You can see you can scroll down here, saving a ton of stuff. Again, we're working on the math in the back to make sure you can basically have a evergreen rolling model. You want to just run rolling form, approach, rolling off the tee. You can be able to save that model and rerun it regardless of the field for the week. So that should be updated and coming in the near future as well. So let's save and generate the model. See what we get. See who is at the top.
Corey Connors.
He's going to be
always going to be Corey Connors top 5 because we didn't do putting. We didn't do
4th.
Corey Connors number 4. Weird. And Finau, obviously, because I talked you out of using putting, so Finau's going to be up there. Scottie Special, Xander, Olympic champion. Doug Gim. Doug Gim is not someone I'll probably bet on to win this tournament. I don't know, like a Doug Gim top 40.
Sure.
Chris Kirk at 6, Morikawa 7. Sugar Shane Lowry playing pretty good golf right now, especially if we throw out Sundays all the time. Number 8, Tom Hoagie, Will Zalatoris, Aaron Rai, Max Homa, rounding out the top 12. Kind of checks out.
Yep. That makes a ton of sense.
Austin Eckroat, obviously,
the GOAT.
Buoyed by a pretty good week a couple weeks ago. Keegan 15th, Rory down at 16th.
I mean, look, he's not been in this year. Tee to green has just been kind of okay. And the approach stuff hasn't been precise. There's ball striking, the week prior at the COG was pretty electric. He just couldn't make a putt. And then, I thought we might have a little bit of a run. He got himself in position with a really solid Saturday afternoon to put himself in the mix. And then the field kind of came back to him. But again, just started it off so poorly on Sunday, and I thought would be, a guy that could maybe chase, but just it became evident pretty quickly that he was not in position to do so. So, that's has not been great. But I mean, this top 30 or so makes a ton of sense. So, have you bet anyone yet?
Scottie Scheffler.
Okay, I've heard about him.
That's the card so far. I'm curious about Hideki at like 40.
Okay.
He does this thing where he's always like injured, but then comes like people who bet against him look like absolute assholes. Like I've quit doing it because we have this where it's either, he's super injured, he's pulling out, or I don't know if there's like some lost in translation where he's like, I got a little crick in my neck, and it comes out as like, he's like 3 vertebrae cracked. Might never walk again. That's what's getting translated somehow, because it was like, he couldn't play the Pro-Am. He comes out and shoots like 4 or 5 under. I mean, he had a very good round 1. So he's playing good golf. Matsuyama's on the short list. So far, Scottie's the only bet I have. I have to fill out the card to find some guys who I think can spike with the approach shot. And Hideki's definitely there with the ball striking. Sanders 20-1. I don't think I've ever won money betting on Sander, but obviously under consideration. Lowry 35-1. That's kind of my short list right now.
I bet some weekend numbers when some of the early odds were floated.
Did you bet Harmon with the rest of the world?
Yeah, but
everybody bet Harmon. Yeah, it's like, well, this is a huge number.
150 is just a joke. This guy didn't like. I mean, comparatively too on the board, there was a bunch of guys at 110, 120 that like do not sniff Sunday PM tee times. Matt Harmon or Brian Harmon, shout out to Matt Harmon. Brian Harmon won the Open Championship, so he's pretty good, and had a nice little weekend. Again, a lot of guys fell off a little bit, so yeah, Brian Harmon at 150 was a play for me. Some people in the chat didn't love it, but like, I'm just gonna bet Keegan at triple digits, like in a lot of weeks because he's way better than that. And like, it's not a 50 on Keegs. I know that I'm a Keegan sucker, but like, he's played well here. He is, I think, a really good fit for this course. The ball striking is pretty, really good consistently. Where is he in this model? I think he's just outside, right around. He's 15th. I mean, look, strokes gained total so far this year, he's 13th. Distance from the edge of the fairway, 20th. It's just sometimes the putting can be a little bit wonky, and it's been better with the aim point. But Keegan, I'm going to play at 100. I also took a opening 65 on Russell Henley, which again, I thought it was going to be shorter than 50 for the most parts. And so there ended up being a 75 right away, and then that went away. But look, that's where we're at now. There's nothing better in the market than a 50 on Russell Henley. So theoretically, I was correct. Is 36 on Chris. So getting a 65 on him feels pretty good. So I don't think I'm going to do anything else. Like a lot of guys that I really like, guys that I went to the well on last week, the kind of the triad of Hovland, Zalatoris, and Max Homa are priced nice. Those are guys I like to bet on, but I don't know. It's going to cost me as much to bet on the three of them as it just is going to cost me to bet on Scottie. Yeah. And yeah, I have 3 outs, but I just feel like last week was different, and I kind of I don't want to have it. I'm out of pocket this week. I'm golfing. I'm not going to be watching and sweating a lot. And I feel pretty good just being like, I'm going to be sweating actually a lot. I'm going to be in Orlando and it's going to be hot. But like, I'm not going to be live sweating my bets. I'd rather just be like, yeah, you know what, guys, I'm just betting Scottie. I have some finishing position bets. Hoagie, top 40, top 30. Some of these other guys that I like will just be finishing position bets than anything that's competing with Scottie. So
probably some of that as well. But a guy I'm going to have to bet at the price because he's like 135 is Pavon. Like, should I just say him with the most Midwestern? Matthew Pavon. The Frenchman. Yeah. I mean, it's like 135 to 1. I know he didn't play well last week at all on, sort of similar kind of, not comp, but comp course. It wasn't great tee to green, but he's won. He has 2 other top 10s this year, and he might just be a guy who's playing well enough. And he's a really good, pin seeker, greens and regulation numbers. Take it or leave it. That's probably going to be a very small outright because it's a huge number, and then I'll play him top 40.
Yeah,
but yeah,
some other ones that are interesting.
Scottie and adding a couple guys, and then him. That's it.
People were dying, tripping over themselves almost to bet Tom Kim here last year at like 30. People want players futures on Tom Kim. I'm building out my one and done card around Tom Kim at Sawgrass. Tom Kim is 80. He's not been playing that bad. It was just interesting to me. Again, this is like there's just this stretch of guys that have just been like kind of pulled down a little bit. Like Finau is 60. Like that's a big number for Tony Finau. And he is not putting it, but again, like ball striking has been great. Like Finau, I bet Finau here last year like 35, and I love the number. Like it's just it's an interesting week. Like there are, if you can somehow move past and you're just Scottie is just crossed off your list for whatever reason, there's some bigger numbers for some pretty good golfers that win golf tournaments or are competitive pretty often. So again, interesting week for outright betting. Scottie without Scottie markets, I think are very interesting too. So it's an interesting week, man.
Yeah. All right. We're going to call her a day.
Let's call it a day.
Thank you if you joined us. Enjoy your trip, Ryan. Enjoy the Players Guide. I don't care what anyone says. It's still the 5th major. If you have any questions about anything, like you said, our Twitter handles are on the screen, at BetSportsGolf on Twitter, at PGA Splits 101 if you want to bug Ron, betsportsgolf.com, and the show notes for all the details on finding your way into the rabbit hole with us. We'll catch you next week.